This is the next video in the Historic Ordnance series. We're going back to Vietnam. I was going through some more of the old Welcome to Vietnam pamphlets and that type of stuff, and the different technical reports that were sent out to engineers. And I came across this and thought, hey, this would be an interesting thing to cover. This is a Viet Cong ammo can or ammunition can mine. Now, the typical one that they usually used, according to the reports, was a 50 caliber can. So a larger can, this general size. Now, the weight of this mine with the explosives inside was around 55 pounds. The construction was really simple, and the pamphlet said that there's numerous ways that this is done, and they recommended to engineers, do not try to disarm them, just blow them up in place, because there was more ways to do this than they could even put inside the manual from what had been already encountered during sweeps of roadways. But I got two different ways I'm going to discuss here. Piece together generally, probably the most common ways this was set up. Now, the filler on these, they used whatever was available, but the report said TNT, C2 and C3 were the most common, and you can probably throw in there C4 and Semtex. So whatever explosive material the Viet Cong had, they filled the can with it. Now at the very top of the can, imagine this is filled up. They would put a board in over the top of the explosive inside the can, and it would be cut to the size of the can. I'm not going to do that to this board for this video. Now, for pressure initiation, non-electric, in the center here roughly, they would have a improvised detonator. Now, the report said no standardized fuses had been encountered with this type of mine up to this point, and I think the manual was created in 68, or the pamphlet was written in 68. So we have an improvised fuse here with a blasting cap attached to it going down into the explosive. The box is placed in the roadway in the traffic zone where the tires are going to go over, roughly like so. Separated enough that it's not going to set off the detonator. This, you could go through and actually cut it off is my guess, but I got a feeling for transporting the mine, they kept it closed till they got there and then installed the fuse. So leave this unattached. You close this just enough, maybe put a grass mat over the top, and then they would cover with dirt or sand, whatever was in the surface of the roadway. The vehicle would come along. Even if part of the tire would drive over the top of this, it would press down on the lid, closing it, and it would set off the detonator and the 50-some pounds worth of explosive inside here. So this has the strength of roughly 2 anti-tank mines if you go off of what was in the pamphlet. Now, the other method was electrical. There was no information on electrical, but looking through the book, I got an idea probably what system they used. So that they would fill the can with explosive, prime it with an electric blasting cap, maybe damage the lip a little bit, run the leads out from there, and then close the can in the roadway, run the leads over to the pressure device or firing device for the mine, and then wire it in. The mine itself would probably be more towards the center of the road so that it would go off underneath the vehicle in the very center or close to it, while you would have the pressure device that would be buried in the roadway over where the vehicles would travel. So here's what I got from the manual, how I think this was probably set up. First off, with the manual, the non-electric initiation for the fuse. It said that this one is extremely common. So we got essentially a round wedge here, hole drilled down the center, and it'd be just, you know, a little bit larger than the nail, but not by much. You want it to be a little bit snug. And down at the bottom, they had a cartridge casing. It looked like a pistol casing. And it said that the blasting cap was attached to the pistol casing. And for filler inside there, it said it was typically PETN. This is a high order explosive that is used to set off other types of explosives, such as C4 and TNT. So this is something that's used in like det cord and blasting caps, depending on the manufacturer. So how this would work, something would press down on the nail up top here, which would be our striker, go down, impact the primer on the cartridge casing, setting off the cap, setting off the explosive in the improvised mine. Now electrically, we got the can that would be in the center of the roadway here. Under the drive, or underneath where the drive path would be, where the tires typically were driving over, they'd have two pieces of bamboo with two small pieces of wood here as a separation. And then there would be either nails going through here down into the wood from both sides, or you would have wire that would just wire the whole thing together to keep it from moving. Now in the center of these pieces of bamboo, you had the electrical leads from the blasting cap. One of them straight from the blasting cap. The other lead is a piece of wire coming off of the battery. These boards, when I looked at the pictures, comparing it to some of the charges that were in the pictures, it looks like we're looking at 18 inches to possibly 2 foot in length for the bamboo pieces. The vehicle would come along, drive over the top, press the bamboo together, and there would be very little separation in here, just a few inches. Press this together, you'd get contact here between the leads, completing the circuit, and then the electric cap inside the mine would go off underneath the vehicle. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Is something like this being employed now? Not that I am aware of. That's one of the reasons why when I came across this in the manual, I thought, hey, this is kind of interesting. Maybe this is something I should research some more into, see what I come up with, and put out there for information. It did say in the pamphlet that the Viet Cong ammunition can mine was extremely common. I tried looking for pictures, but there aren't any online that I could pull up in searches. So all I had was the drawings from in the pamphlet, except for this initiation system. I found multiple pictures of this being used with bulk charges like this by the Viet Cong, so I got a feeling this is probably the system that they usually used when they did this electrically. The other option is they have all this stuff inside the can here, and with one lead attached to the lid, the other lead right below it. Somehow the lid it gets closed and you end up with the electrical contact and the mine initiates that way. In that situation, the can would be underneath the drive path, underneath where the typical tire treads are in the road, so that they would try to flip the vehicle to kill or injure anyone that's inside. There you go, some more of the ingenuity from the 1960s that they came up with their versions of improvised explosive devices. Pretty ingenious, pretty simple, and I'm actually surprised this is one that does not appear in U.S. manuals nowadays that I am aware of. Now for all, I need to mention this, I have to. Do not take the information I've given you, actually construct one of these now. If you do, you will get caught, you will go to jail, you will go to jail for an extremely long time. However, doing mock-ups of this for information events, living history events, so that you can explain some of the things the troops came across in Vietnam, you can do replicas without actual explosive materials. That is legal. Now you have some of the information that would allow you to be able to explain it to people coming to see what did engineers encounter in Vietnam, what did the troops have to deal with when they were doing convoys on roads. So don't build one of these now except as a replica, and you must use all non-explosive, non-live materials when you build a replica. If you build one out of live materials, live explosives, even to test out to see how it works, you're going to get caught, you're going to go to jail, you're going to go to jail for a long time. Now, for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot and militia movements, always remember, essayons.